Thanks for joining the show today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Today's guest with us is Bridgette Ferrero. Excited to have you on the show, CEO from iCopy Legal. Excited to kind of jump into what you guys are doing and talk about kind of how you're using technology and how it's helping you. But for everybody that doesn't know you or hasn't seen what you guys are doing, just give them kind of the 60-second story of kind of how you got into iCopy Legal and what you guys are doing from a company standpoint.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff. So super excited for the chat today. iCopy was started by attorneys back in 2008 as a service-based business. Fast forward 2015, one of the original founders got the bug for integrating maybe a website or a platform. And then fast forward 2019, they were building the baby version of what is our platform now, Nimbus. And I came in, I took that product to market January 2020. We have scaled and grown nationwide. So that was a very interesting time to have a completely 100% in-person, mainly paper-based business, moved to tech-enabled. And then fast forward even further to this past December, and I'm now majority owner of iCopy. And our bread and butter is records retrieval for insurance carriers and defense firms, mainly in pre-litigation and litigation when records are needed. That could be medical records, personnel records, phone records, and we're procuring them and then delivering them securely digitally.
Right. How does that work from the standpoint of if you've got somebody or if they've got a case that's going on and you need records from like 1975, if they're still in paper, are you guys physically sending somebody or is somebody on the ground in that location sending somebody to get those records and then get them digitized? And what does that look like?
Great question. So sometimes, depending upon where you're procuring the records from, they might not have the infrastructure to go do that. So we can be a resource to help put boots on the ground to go get records. Oftentimes, they would do it themselves because it's the responsibility of the custodian of the record to actually then produce it to someone like us. But we have been known to help support that. So a crazy example that I love is in Chicago, we had to go get old stenographer notes that were from like the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
And it was like the paper was super thin and like disintegrating. And we literally like had to flip through and photograph page by page and then digitize it. That was a fun one.
It's funny from the stenographer standpoint. Do they function the same as like the court reporters do, where it's like they're using kind of their own shorthand? So like they have to translate what it is or?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Okay. Nowadays, it's not as, it's more digitized today from a court reporting standpoint, but yeah. And
I would imagine like with files and everything being digital and everything moving towards AI, I would imagine at some point transcriptions are going to kind of catch up with a lot of that and it'll all be digital, moving forward period, just because almost everything gets recorded now, depending on what's going on.
That's part of the evolution of the technology we're trying to stay on the front range of, because the value also of summarization of the multiple points of communication and record in general throughout the life cycle of the case.
Right. No, that totally makes sense. Who would you say is predominantly your main focus client? I know you mentioned a couple there in the beginning, but is it a specific set of attorneys or is it just the ones in those sectors that you've kind of talked about?
Yeah, great question. So typically it's going to be attorneys in cases that deal with like workers' compensation or auto, general liability. We do some like subrogation and construction work, medical malpractice, personal injury, anything where there's a heavy need for medical records or records in general. We've dabbled in some other cases where financial records are needed. We've also done work with municipalities. So when you're dealing with maybe like federal cases where police officers are involved, more helping organize and deliver body cam footage, convenience store footage, that type of thing as well.
Right.
And oftentimes like ideal clientele is at a carrier level, and then that's internal with claims adjusters, and then it can push out as well to their panel counsel.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I think most of y'all, I think you're 90% remote still?
Yeah. Little over 90.
Okay.
And it's interesting driving culture as a CEO with a mainly remote team. It's definitely wild.
Yeah. I can imagine it's hard enough to do that in person when you're face to face to people and just trying to remember all the things that you need to do and all the conversations you need to have and that kind of thing. I can imagine the remote piece adds a whole other layer of, complexity, and not even that, but just the lost in translation type of thing, where you're having a conversation with somebody who may be in a totally different culture or different place or whatever. I can imagine that would definitely be difficult. How have you found, or what have you found to be the most useful in helping you drive culture with remote work like that?
Yeah, so we spend a decent amount of time in the onboarding process with new team members to get them involved in communication and how does that work and what does that look like here at iCopy. So I actually share this one pretty often, that a part of the onboarding and training teaches folks how to take photos or like graphics from the internet and turn them into Slack emojis, because we do so much communication in Slack.
Nice.
And one of the really cool, fun features is actually creating your own stickers and emojis.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure like there's a picture of my 3-year-old with her glasses upside down, just like fist pumping as she's on a boat.
Yeah.
I think she's a sticker on there. Like there's dancing dinosaurs and shooting rainbows.
That's so funny.
Rolling dumpster fires,
Totally get that. I have gotten that meme quite a few times. So totally get that.
On the other side, we also try and make sure that we're really intentional with like team meetings. So today, actually, we just held a virtual quarterly luncheon. So we send out DoorDash gift cards to everyone.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And we just get together on Zoom, and there's breakout rooms with different themes. So I was in like the video gamer and movie room, and we just
everybody's eating on camera
and eat lunch. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've seen a few different people do that. It's funny because during the pandemic, everybody was trying to figure out like how do we do everything remote now, and we had sales reps who would do the same thing. They do like, hey, we want to do a product demo, and like we'll do it on Zoom, and we'll send you lunch, and here we go, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
And so it was funny to kind of experience that, and then even after that, as people were still working remote, like what that looked like. So, how do you feel like technology has enabled you to communicate with the team, especially being remote? What are some of the highlights from that? What are some of the things that you feel like this 100% makes an impact in our day-to-day operations? Is there anything that sticks out?
Oh, one of the most used and favorite tools I think of our team is Loom. So being able to leverage Loom's video recording as we're going through something, and then being able to share that and react to it and make notes has been super helpful. We also include in our training when we're onboarding folks to have open meetings. So kind of like open office hours, and middle management will just do their day-to-day job within 4-hour blocks. And so especially in those early days with new team members, you're working side by side in an open and live video recorded environment so that you can ask those open questions. And then the big pieces of that are also using like Monday.com for project management. Our own proprietary tech platform has a lot of workflows and reporting features, and Slack is a big one.
Yeah, that's funny. So you mentioned Monday, Slack, and you've got your own internal. What other software like that are you guys using? Are there any other bigger names that you're using with everything?
Yeah, I mean, Google, we use, Google Drive and then Google Meetings. We will use Zoom occasionally when we're doing massive meetings with the breakout features. Google has some of it, but it's a little bit slicker from a UI perspective on some of the stuff in Zoom that we can do for breaking out in meetings. Other tech platforms, we are using HubSpot for our CRM. So that is like on the marketing and sales side. So we do internal monthly newsletters, not just to our clients. So we've got like a newsletter that goes out, but we also do it internally because we're a remote team.
Right.
And then you get updates on different departments, and we use HubSpot for those campaigns.
Do you feel like you're getting the most out of all of those systems? Because I mean, the systems that you've mentioned all kind of have some things that overlap with each other, some things that don't. There's kind of bits and pieces. And I'm just curious kind of what your feedback is on some of that. I've got my own thoughts on some of that from our own experiences as well, but I'm just curious, do you feel like it's working really well for you in all of those different pieces?
So I am, for those Hamilton fans out there, I'm like super scrappy. And I try to leverage the free versions of technology for as long as humanly possible. So I would say that there are probably more things that we could leverage, but we're intentionally on a version because we are at over 120 total headcount at this point. I loathe, especially as someone who runs a tech-enabled product. Mm-hmm. It's ironic that I'm like, no, I don't want a per head monthly subscription that has to scale with me. Yep. Another big one we use is actually Adobe. So we have a lot of Adobe licenses for things that we run in there. And that's just one where I'm like, oh, that monthly subscription.
Yeah. I would assume you're using Adobe for like the PDF, features that come with all of that. That makes sense. We do a lot of that as well, as far as just from a documentation standpoint and, just proposals, editing things, all that kind of stuff. So that makes sense. I totally get that. But I agree with you. It is a nightmare kind of going through that whole experience and then realizing, oh, I need 12 different platforms to accomplish like 2 tasks, right? That can be a little daunting.
I'll say like Slack is one that we're on Google, and I would love to just use Google Chat, for example. But we've been using Slack for so long, and some of the features that they have that are kind of like ingrained in the way we communicate, like the emojis and the way channels are organized. I don't want to do the change management, even though like it would be easier, quote unquote, because we're already paying for everything and already operate in Google. But
you mentioned you're using Google Meet sometimes for meetings and you're using Zoom for bigger meetings and that kind of stuff. Do you find that one platform functions better for you than the other, just as far as user experience and overall workflow, quality, that kind of deal?
Great question. I love Google for internal meetings because we're on Google.
Right.
And I love Zoom for external because it is a huge pain for clients or vendors or partners that are on Microsoft to get into Google Meetings. Oftentimes it's like, okay, well, now I have to log into my personal Gmail account because so many people are on Google from a personal perspective. And that's another one where we've evaluated, like, should we just change as a company to Microsoft instead of Google?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I think that's something that a lot of people, still deal with, right? I've got my own experiences with Zoom and Teams and, those kind of things. And we find, just some of the things that you mentioned, as far as like the user interface being a little more, easy to manage, a little easier to use. I definitely have found that Zoom kind of withstands poor internet connections a little bit better. And I don't know if that has something to do with their compression ratio or how they deal with how they're encoding their video and audio. That's what it seems like. But in my experience with both conference meetings, but also like larger broadcast meetings where you're sending it out to, a bunch of different locations, Zoom always seems to be a little bit more stable than most of the other platforms that we've worked on. But I was just curious on what your perspective was on that, especially since you're using both. But I completely agree with you on the point about Microsoft and Google Meet, because I have meetings with, I'm trying to remember who the suppliers are. I've got a couple of suppliers that they use Google Meet, and it's like every time we get on a meeting, it takes like 25 minutes.
Yeah. I'm at the point where I'm about to just put the SOP in place where if you're doing any sort of external meeting, use the Zoom account. Yeah. Because it's a pain point for anyone externally.
Yeah. No, and I think I would agree with you on that. I think it is a different experience from a user standpoint. So, what do you feel like is, for you guys specifically from a company standpoint, what do you feel like is a technology on the horizon that's really going to make the most impact for you guys, or that's really going to change how your business is run?
Yeah, leveraging everything that is capable within like large language models for transcription and summarization is going to revolutionize what we do. So we have a lot of calls that happen to follow-ups within medical facilities, and there's some automations that can be done there, as well as taking what's currently done by people, right? Taking a call. And this technology isn't like brand new, but we haven't implemented it into our system, where traditionally our folks are hand transcribing what's happening on a phone call. Right. And that's making the number of calls that someone can do a day be less. And so we're looking at leveraging the technology to essentially transcribe and do those notes so that their call volume can be higher.
Right.
And on the inbound, the medical records, and some of our competitors have already been doing this for a long time. We're, a smaller fish in a bigger pond on some of these things, is ingesting the PDF. So we've been doing OCRing for a long time, but taking the OCRing to the next step to actually create really, really smart summarizations and indexing, and then even some more detailed products around dates of service and when a client was seen or a patient was seen by particular doctors, and putting together an entire analysis that's super, super smart, leveraging some large language model pieces.
That makes sense. We've kind of heard some similar things from a couple other owners or executives that we've talked to around just how they're using, AI and language models for whatever it is in their business, right? Whatever the pieces are that they can automate or make more efficient, or, remove, certain parts of the equation and that kind of stuff. That makes sense. I totally see that. I remembered what it was I was going to ask you. You were talking about SOPs. I'm curious, for your SOPs or for your videos, are you cataloging all of those in a particular system, or are you just doing Loom? How is that working for you guys as far as when you onboard somebody? Do you have like a whole set of, here's like the 25 videos you've got to go through, or, what does that look like?
Yeah, love that you asked. So we actually have an entire kind of onboarding catalog that lives within our Google Drive right now. And it's a pretty robust system and process that is Google Sheets and Google Docs and hyperlinks to videos and trainings and all of that. And we're in the process of actually migrating that into a platform that is created. That's going to be it's its own entity, and that product is leased back to iCopy, because small to medium sized businesses like ours, especially if we're hiring 20 to 50 people at a time that need to be onboarded.
Yeah.
One of the things I identified was the amount of time alone that it was taking to review resumes and then do first round interviews, which 20% of them were no shows. And now I've got human capital time of high level managers being wasted.
Yeah.
So we've created a separate platform that eventually will be its own standalone to be sold to small to medium sized businesses, so that all of those resumes are ingested by AI and it gives it a scoring system. And then the first round interview is actually done via video. So you come into the platform and then that's also scored by AI. And then you're put into your second round interviews, which is where our humans come into play.
Yeah.
And then after you're hired, then the onboarding system also lives in that platform, and all of the videos and the trainings are within the platform, because we built all of that and it's very manual. And the user experience of having to go through multiple documents and click a link and then go here, the training process was painful.
Yeah.
And then after, let's say you're 45 days in and you need to reference some of these things.
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of hard to find. And so we're building all of that into a tool that makes the user experience more seamless and makes it super smart for ongoing referencing.
What I think is amazing about that is you've put so much time onto the front end of that, where you're cycling down your candidates anyways, you're pre-screening all of that. You're making sure that they show up before a person ever gets involved with any of that. That's impressive. That's cool. That's
Thank you.
That's really neat. I'm curious, when you're sorting resumes for jobs, do you have your job set up in a particular way where that list of categories or checklist or whatever it is that it's looking for, is it different per position, and can you adjust that as you go along? What does that look like?
Yeah, so future state, that's the goal. So we're actually leveraging predictive index as a marker for our job. So we have access to hire. So there's I know you use it, right? Yeah. So the hire one is the one we've been using for about 9 months now, and we're about to upgrade to the rest of them so that we can pull all of that through and just make it as data-driven as possible, and how we're hiring, retaining, and all of that.
Yeah.
So it'll tie into technology that's already in existence with PI and make it super smart. Yeah. And then we'll lay in some of our culture specific things, and the technology will be smart enough essentially so this can be copy pasted for any small to medium sized business, because again, I loathe getting involved in a per head, per month subscription based thing.
Yep.
And so building a technology that's an annual overhead commitment for any small to medium sized business, because a lot of learning management systems, so LMSs that are maybe tied on to like a Rippling or a Gusto or standalone, are really expensive. Yeah. And so trying to lower access to small to medium sized businesses that want to use that kind of technology, but it's not really available yet.
Yeah. Well, we found in our own kind of experience going through the whole CRM journey and some of these other things, like finding a system that does all of the things that you want it to do as well as you want it to do it, you end up with multiple systems anyways, because there's not one system that has every piece of what you're trying to do. Even though, it may be industry specific, it may be whatever, they all have these quirks or these weird things. It's like, why did you do it this way? Like, that doesn't logically make sense. There's just some weird nuance to each one of them. And then, you've got the platforms like Monday where, you can go in and you can build just about anything you can think of. Right. Yeah. But you've got to be so deeply involved in like actually creating it from the ground up. It just takes forever to implement it. Right. And so not to mention you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, we didn't really need, 12 of these features anyways. Like, we're not really even using them. Right. So that's one of the things that I love about what you're describing is the forethought that you guys have put into it, from the standpoint of like knowing that you want to whittle down your list of candidates, you want to pre-screen them and make sure that they're actually going to show up. Like, that whole thing, like, that shows that you've put a lot of thought into the front end of that. And that's really cool. So
thanks. It was a forced situation after we had to recruit and hire and onboard 25 people within about a 6-week period of time.
Right.
It made us learn a lot, and we're like, okay, well, how do we do this better next time?
It's always like the painful things. It's like, what can I make notes on so like this never happens again? Right. We had a couple of projects that went that way, and I got to the end of them and I was like, we are never doing this again. Like, whatever we have to do to fix this, we're fixing it. It doesn't matter. So no,
I actually just had the conversation with someone because I'm building technology on a regular basis and features of like, well, when's the point where you get to something and you've already invested, whatever time and money it is, and that you shouldn't take it to fruition. Like, how do you pull the plug on something that you're already so invested in and be like, okay, it's time to leave it and move on, rather than taking it, spending more time and money, and just the buy-in that you have to get from the team, that you now have to say, like, we're going a different way. Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things to me, like, I've thought about that too, because we've had a couple of things like that where we've gone through and said, oh, we're going to go this direction and we're going to, do this thing. And, you get halfway down the road and you're like, this was not a good idea. Like, why did we ever think this was going to work? And at times, like, you just kind of got to look back at some of that and be like, we're still figuring this out. Like, I'll put it this way. One of our largest clients, that we've done business with for a long time, we've supported several of their meetings and several of the things that they do. And, we were in a meeting with a lot of executives, and a lot of the executives were looking around the table going, we don't understand how to solve this problem. We don't understand what we need to do and whatever. And it made me think in that moment, like, they're a, Fortune 500 company, right? But 99% of the time, like, we're all on the same page. We're all figuring it out, right? Like, we're all like taking the steps and like, oh, this didn't really work the way that I wanted to. I think the trick with that is just being able to identify it as quickly as possible. And I think the more time you're putting in on the front end of something like that, the faster you're going to find out, like, oh yeah, this is not going to work the way that we thought it was. Right. So it's an interesting conversation there, but, do you guys have a standard technology kit that you're sending out to employees remotely that you're using? I'm curious, like from a laptop or, webcam, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I do it in-house because I'm scrappy.
That makes sense.
I've tried to find a partner that could do it outsourced, and I ended up creating it. We don't have that many people in person, and it is incredibly difficult when you're mainly remote to manage that in-house. And there's a point, which I'm not quite sure where it is, that I'm going to have to outsource that piece of it.
Right.
But what I traditionally do is buy on Black Friday or Cyber Monday and stockpile. And then I have a gal in-house who like de-bloats it and like presets it up, but everything runs off of AWS's workspaces. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so everything is mainly on the cloud, and we don't have to like install a whole bunch of stuff, but running the things through the AWS workspaces. But then we have this really fun thing as part of our onboarding where they get a budget and they get to like buy things for their home office. So like if you need an upgraded lumbar chair or
a monitor or headset. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they most people get their laptop and then 2 screens. So most people are on a 3-screen setup. And then like a wireless mouse and, there's a couple of things that you get in your package deal. And then you get like to go shopping for fun things.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah. And depending on how many people you are adding every year, you're absolutely right. I think you're going to get to a point where you're going to have to outsource that to a certain degree because it just becomes a nightmare. The other thing that, like to your point, like buying on Black Friday, I think that totally makes sense. And that is such a small, medium business thing to do. Like that is so awesome. It's interesting to think through that from the standpoint of once you've gotten that, is your internal lady making sure that all of those things stay updated so that it doesn't take forever once you actually pull one out and are ready to go. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I think that I ran into that where, we didn't need to pull 1 or 2 of them until the end of the year. It's like, you should have just not bought them and then got a newer one, right? If it's going to sit on a shelf for 9 to 12 months. So that's definitely one I would say in 2026, I probably need to solve for.
Yeah.
And I've looked at managed services through some of the other vendors that we leverage, because I think Rippling, which is our payroll system, has a model where you can do that. We have a platform that we use for like our SOC 2 security compliance stuff. And I think they even have a thing where they can manage some of that for you.
Yeah. There's a number of options out there. I mean, you'll find that from those type of, whether it's a software as a service or a actual just service itself, whether it's the SOC folks or, the other company that you mentioned, there's a lot of options out there for that. I'll be interested to find out though, like, I'm wondering if you're going to get to a point where when you review all of it, how many of your laptops need to be updated? As far as, they've timed out or they're getting to a place where they're just too old, some of those kind of things. And are you guys refreshing them on a regular basis right now, or what does that look like?
So we have been refreshing, not on like a set cadence. It's more of like, hey, my processing is super, super bad.
Yeah.
Can I get an upgrade? Or having folks that maybe move into a role like mine has the number keypad, but the standard one that most people get doesn't have the number keypad. And we have some people that ended up getting like an attachment that added that to it, and just realizing, okay, certain roles really should have that from the beginning, because they're operating in Excel or doing more financial things, that kind of thing. But I am the worst at doing my updates on my own.
Yeah.
So I hit ignore and I don't turn off my laptop because I don't want to lose my 352 tabs that are open. All of the
tabs that are up. Totally get it.
So I will literally take it into the gal in office who like does some of that IT stuff. And I'm like, please make it go faster.
Yeah. My assistant is laughing because she looks over my shoulder and I have like 50 tabs open all at the same time. And I'm going between all of them, looking at stuff and doing all kinds of different stuff. So yeah, totally understand. I feel your pain.
Like there's 4 tabs on there that have been open for probably 7 months, but like I'm going to get to them eventually. They're open because I need to go there and not forget about it.
Out of sight, out of mind, right? It's that whole thing of if I see it, oh yeah, I need to go do this thing. Like I totally get it. Like it's so painful. I get it.
I feel seen. Thank you, Jeff.
Hey, no, it's all good. all good. It's the world we live in. It's these paths that we chose of ownership and all that fun stuff. So
I have a gal. She was my right hand at a previous organization. It's one of my favorite mugs that has ever been purchased for me. And it says, "My brain has too many tabs open."
Right. That's awesome.
The other one is just the graphic of the spinny beach ball of death.
Oh, yeah.
I'm no longer on Mac, but when I was, just the spinny beach ball of death is the symbol for, like, I get this certain look on my face sometimes, and it's just the embodiment of that symbol.
It's like, I need to turn off and reboot and like, let's just start over. Like, bring it back.
Control Alt Delete.
Yeah. Open another tab. Yeah. Let's figure that out. That's funny. Are you guys doing any large, I guess wonder if most of your people are remote, are they spread out pretty well across the country, the globe? Like, what does that look like from that standpoint?
We have team members. I think we're in 12 different states right now. Okay. Across the United States. And then we have a team that we run also out of the Philippines who are spread out across multiple islands in the Philippines. And so this year was our first year running in-person retreats and getting people together in person, which was super great, but also trying to manage like all of the things that come with in-person events was interesting. We learned a lot.
Yeah. That's how many different retreats did you guys do?
So we did 2 different retreats, but they were like multi-day things. So then there were multiple things kind of built into them. So our stateside one was the one that was most recent, just a few months ago. And we had a portion of one of the days where we essentially like remoted in on Zoom the rest of the team overseas. Yeah. And other folks who maybe were onshore but didn't come to that in-person event. And then when we were in the Philippines and running that, there were lots of people that we kind of flew in. That was a much larger group in person. And then managing the, like getting a room and running the AV and all of that. We have an amazing team that really helped with doing that out of country.
What was the most painful piece of that from a production standpoint? Like, so whether it was getting on the call, consistent internet, video, any of those kind of things, what do you think was the thing that could be improved the best or the most?
I don't like that I can't see everyone. So we very much have the culture that if we're having a meeting that your face is on here, like there's one subset of our team that anytime I pop into their meetings, none of them get on camera. And I'm like, y'all, I'm gonna need you to get on board. Right. But when we have these company-wide meetings, right, and you've got over 100, you have to slide through. Mm-hmm. And when we're hosting something big like that in person, I would have preferred to have had a big screen that you could see everybody at the same time. Yeah. I don't know if that even exists.
It does.
Okay.
I was just curious how you guys were doing that. I was curious what the pain points were. We also, one of the things that we do as well is a lot of corporate events. So we do like kind of the big broadcasts and webcasts, for some of our clients that are doing, town hall meetings or, hey, we've got a new strategy we're rolling out, that kind of stuff. So
I'm doing one at a co-working space on Thursday, and I am like already anxious about it because half of us are going to be in person and half are going to be on Zoom. And I'm like, I don't want to, it's me, but like, I don't want to be the person responsible because it's going to go sideways.
Right. Yeah. It's always like, how much liability do I want to accept in this whole thing? Right. No, I totally get that.
It's a high level meeting. Like I've got high level folks getting together for a 4-hour strategy session. Like I don't want to waste time. And we should talk about this actually.
Happy to. We can talk about it after the show.
Let's do that.
Okay. That's funny. It's like, it's one of the things, it's funny because when we look at kind of the whole AV world, right? I usually tend to break it up in like what is traditionally corporate AV, which is conference rooms and video conferencing, kind of what we're doing now, but a little bit different. Typical, Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, whatever the thing is. Integrating that with conference rooms, integrating that with like larger spaces for town halls and those kind of things. You then move to kind of like more specialty, digital signage, big video wall, whatever just some specifics on that stuff. And then on the other end of that is the production piece of, I'm hosting a really big event and it needs to go out to not even just the people in the room, but like another however many people online, right? And so all of the things that kind of come into that. But if you kind of draw a box around all of that encompasses AV and it all touches the same stuff. It just interacts differently. And there's just a few different key, distinctions between them, right? But all of the principles are basically the same. I mean, you're at the end of the day, you're connecting point A to point B, whether it's in the room or, across the world. Like there's just a couple of things that you got to figure out in the middle, not to simplify that too much, but.
No, I love that. Do you also help people with like booth setups? Cause I'm just thinking I've got a fairly like higher tech conference that we're going to, and we've had some pretty basic booths that we've put together. And I tried to go to my team and they haven't done it before and be like, okay, I want something like higher tech and flashy, right? Like give me a light box background, all that. Is that something that you also help with, is like a more...
We could help with portions of that. It would be good to know, because sometimes depending on where the event is and depending on how you're hosting it, there's like a whole organization that is in charge of setting some of that stuff up. But if it's, design and you're going to bring in your own stuff and that kind of deal, there are definitely some things we could do to help you with some of that as well. So I'm happy to talk about that. But I was trying to think of what else on the event side. What was your favorite part of the in-person events?
Honestly, just getting to break bread with people and sit down and have like genuine human interaction conversations, like get to know them on an individual one-on-one basis. Also giving gifts. I love like just being able to take gifts and give swag. And at the in-person one in the US, we volunteered together. So we had like a community give back time, which was super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. What is this is going to be a totally random question. What is your favorite piece of swag that you've either ever received or given?
Okay. So when you say swag, it has the logo on it.
Could have the logo, could not. Either way, doesn't really matter. But
current that we have yet to give away, but is going to be our raffle item at an upcoming conference, is we're doing the Ray-Ban Meta glasses.
Nice. That's awesome. Are you going to have the logo on them or no?
No, I should try and figure out how to maybe do that.
I'm sure you could find somebody that put like a vinyl or something on there.
Yeah. Just put a little something on there. But I'm going to be speaking at a conference on AI and innovation. And I was like, what a better raffle item, especially because it's one of those that right now is kind of like frou for, but like, it's fun for video and cameras and it's super expensive. So you're probably not really going to buy it for yourself kind of thing.
Yeah. It's one of those deals. It's like, you want to get a pair, but are you really going to use it the way that you think you're going to use it? Or is like, that would be.
Well, and yet, right? Like I think in like 3 more generations, it'll be, we'll see where it's at. I
mean, technology, I think will have advanced even further, than it is now. And so I think, and this even goes back to, if you remember the Google Glass deals back in the day, like the whole barrier to all of that was the size of the technology, the size of the battery. Like even with the Ray-Bans, they look really cool, but looking at them, there are some pieces of it that's still pretty thick. And I've got to imagine there's at least a little bit of weight to it. And so it's just the whole thing of like having something that you can wear that's comfortable, that, isn't an issue. Right. And I think there will be some distinctions on some of that where people will go in and like totally transform, something that used to be one thing and now it's like 12 others. I mean, the Apple Watch is a perfect example of that. Like everybody's had watches for years, and when Apple said they were putting out a watch, everybody was like, what are they doing? Like watches are dead. They're going away, that kind of deal. But it has, taken off and it's a huge deal now. Right. So, now that's really interesting. So more specific, best piece of swag with a logo on it.
Okay. I only was able to buy a few of them. It's literally sitting right next to me. So I found these power banks at Target that are iCopy blue colored during back to school. So they were only $10, and they were iCopy Blue. And it's got enough like charge in it for a charge and a half on a phone. And we have a little iCopy sticker that's our paper airplane logo. So it's not really like our name, just slap a sticker on it. And I like hit up the team and was like, okay, please go to Target and buy like as many as you possibly
can. As many as you can find.
As many as we can. And I think it took like, I don't know, 36 hours to like get that in the queue to get it done. And they were sold out. You couldn't get them.
That's crazy.
I got 20 of them in my local area. But other than that, because I was very small batch, we have a little squishy skull because we do a lot of stuff around radiology records. And so it's a stress ball, but it's a skull because of the medical
awesome.
Records and radiology.
That's awesome. Yeah. That reminds me, like, everybody in the old days used to have the skull on the desk, that whole thing. That's funny.
Totally.
I've got a crazy little dinosaur skeleton thing on my desk in the office. So I just keep telling myself, it reminds myself, always adapt, don't go extinct,
It don't go, yeah.
So, no, it's funny. Ours, one of the ones that we love the most, we've used it the most, has been this little screen cleaner that's, about this big. The outside of it is wrapped in like a microfiber, and it's like a pump sprayer with like an alcohol solution that you can clean all of your screens with. And I had originally gotten one from a manufacturer, and I was like, this is like the best piece of logo swag I have ever gotten. And I have used it to this day. Right. Like I don't even know how many pens and how many, all these other useless things that you never use, but they have everybody's name plastered on it. I'm like, this one thing has stayed with me for like the last probably 5 years, and I've used it like almost every day. So
the one I get that I love the most is sunglasses, because I can't be trusted to have nice ones. Like I will lose them, I will break them. It's the epitome of like, I can't have nice things. So when I get the free sunglasses, I just stash them.
You're like different logo every day, different color.
Every day. I actually have like 3 pairs from competitors, and I'm just like, it's a moment.
That's all right. Yeah. That's funny. You should figure out some kind of social campaign and use some of those for that. That'd be hilarious. That's
a great idea. That's a real waiting to happen.
Yeah. Take some selfies with them or do something like that. That'd be funny. No, that's really awesome. I ran across this because I was looking at your LinkedIn just to kind of do some background research before our conversation today. I love what you ended your whole kind of about me section on LinkedIn with. And the last sentence that you have there is, I'm passionate about building smart businesses, motivated teams, and processes that work so that the people behind the paperwork can focus on what matters. I love that statement. Talk to me about behind the paperwork, what matters most? What are you hoping that they're focusing on the most at that point?
Yeah. I always say that if we have that good culture internally, then we're going to naturally emulate what we want from a customer service standpoint externally, right? So at the end of the day, what matters most is the people. And at the end of the day, like, I don't wake up being like, yeah, I'm super excited about records retrieval. What I am super passionate about is building a place where people can work and be seen as humans first, and the people behind the paperwork matter. And that's not just internally when we're working with paralegals or with claims adjusters or attorneys. Yeah. At the end of the day, whether you're on the plaintiff side or on the defense side, there are people behind these claims and behind the paperwork that are impacted, not always by tragedy, but sometimes by tragedy.
Right.
And that this little piece of the puzzle and process that we are influencing helps make a difference in somebody's life, even if it's just not making their job be as annoying as it possibly can be.
Right.
Creating some efficiencies and leveraging innovation and positive communication and human touch with customer service, and just making in general the things that you maybe have to do in your job and day to day a little bit easier, has positive impact.
Oh, that's awesome. Where do you see yourself in the business 5 years from now?
see myself at a strategic level because right now I run a lot of sales and I am the face of the business. So still being the face of the business, but less of the hands-on that I have for sales right now. I'm building up a lot of my stuff in speaking and having certain topics where I'm either doing keynotes or I'm on a panel. And I love the innovation that is happening right now. And I can't even imagine all that's going to come and where we'll be in 5 years, but being in a position of speaking to where we're at in 5 years as an industry. And we'll probably innovate a lot in the next 5 years and have some pivots, and being able to help others see the opportunity to grow with the innovation that's at our fingertips, and being at a strategic level to be a part of the change in our industry.
Yeah. What's your number one obstacle right now?
Number one obstacle. That's a great question.
Monthly subscriptions is a fair answer if you want to say that.
It's really, that one's just an annoyance, honestly. Number one obstacle. I have a lot of places that we could go, and I get very excited about innovation and change. A lot of people, it's like change is hard, and I love change so much so that like if things are right and smooth, I'm like,
what can I do to mess all this up?
There's something different we can do here.
Yeah.
Like, let's go tackle it,
Yeah.
So I think right now there's a lot of opportunity for new things. And so I'm actually being really intentional about putting some advisors around me to help guardrail Bridgette from shiny objects. So I would say actually implementing a system, process, and cadence for me to have those board of advisors help make sure that like, here's our target, here's the 3-year, here's the 5-year plan, so that the daily decisions now and over the next 6, 12, 18 months are really driving towards those. And that's how we reverse engineer into achieving those goals.
Yeah, to where you're going. No, that totally makes sense. Do you feel like, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. Do you feel like technology helps or makes the whole shiny object syndrome worse?
I think for me, it makes it worse because I'm not an engineer. I'm not a developer, but I've been helping support develop products and features for 6 years now. And so I'm just dangerous enough to dream to the max.
Right. To the moon.
Yeah. Like everything is possible. Everything. Yeah. It just takes time and money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We can do anything you want as long as you have an infinite budget. Right. So yeah, it's like we talk about that all the time. It's like you can have, you can have cost, you can have schedule, or you can have quality. But you can only pick two. So pick the two that you want, right? What's most important to you? So no, I totally get that. Really appreciate you taking the time today. This was fantastic and a blast to kind of talk through. Any closing thoughts that you've got, for anybody in the business community that's using technology, things that, have helped you, over the last several years?
Yeah, I would say make sure to take the time to analyze your business, whether you do it quarterly or you do it annually. Oftentimes as business owners, we don't take the time to slow down to grow at a sustainable pace. And I think it's one of those where I have to take my own advice, but that practice has helped me to do things like identify that the onboarding process and recruitment, it's actually a huge time suck. And where can I use technology to create time savings and decrease pain points within my own organization or for your clients even?
That totally makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of building in those efficiencies into, things that you already have going on. How can you streamline them and make them better and that kind of stuff? So I totally get that. I think my only last thought when you were talking about the shiny object syndrome, the thing that has helped me in the last little bit is is your existing company, is your existing product where it should be, like where you're capable of getting it to, where the company is capable of going? Is it at that place? If it's not at that place, turn all of that inward and focus on marketing, focus on all of the other product innovations and efficiencies that you can do to really like nail that down so that it's, it's on rails and it's headed to the place that it needs to go, right? Whatever number that is, or, whatever you think that should be. But at that point, it gives you I'm going to take all of that shiny object and let me put it into the creative, or let me put it into, building efficiencies in the system, or, whatever the thing is, and fix that problem. Right. So good. Awesome. Bridgette, thank you so much for taking the time. This was fantastic. Look forward to doing this again. Tell everybody where they can find you. And we'll also put it in the show notes as well. So people can find you online.
Yeah, you can look up Bridgette Ferrero on LinkedIn and follow me there, and iCopylegal.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. So much fun.
You're most welcome.